About 3 hours is enough. Like the plant doesn't want to have it more to do. You see the plants start to almost kind of weaken a little bit. So 3 hours seems to be the max to play the music for the plant to get the benefits of the resonance.
ADAPT 2030 Mini Ice Age Conversations covers changes in our climate due to a new and intensifying grand solar minimum. In the media, overlooking, downplaying, or burying cold weather changes occurring on our planet. This is in order to keep the global warming agenda steaming full speed ahead. I do this podcast and radio program because we need to begin conversations on how to adapt our food growing strategies long before 2030 as agricultural zones shift, affecting global crop output. But very few mainstream media outlets are talking about the most important issue of our time: cold weather crop losses. Our sun is going through a 400-year cycle, which has effects on our weather patterns as our magnetosphere weakens and the jet streams go out of flow. It's not CO2, it's not you, it's the sun. Are you ready to thrive in the grand solar minimum? Then join me for Mini Ice Age Conversations. I'm your host, David DuByne.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are on this planet. I have Kate Hart, the Radical Gardener, with me. You can find her work at radicalgardener.net, katehart.com. Well, you'll find the same thing if you're doing acupuncture. At some point, that in the beginning, the needles feel incredibly good. They're therapeutic. The blood's coming in. But at that one point, we're like, oh, it's a little uncomfortable right now. It's time to take it out. Because, doing acupuncture, if you were to leave those needles in for, 8, 10, 24 hours, you couldn't handle that on the human body. You go insane.
Yeah, you would. I did acupuncture for 20 years. I lived in Seattle for a long time, and acupuncture really kind of saved my health. And I lived in Japan for 4 months, too. I lived on the southern island of Shikoku, in a little town called Imabari. So I was actually singing in a private club there, but, I did spend 4 months there. So anyways, yes, you're right.
Yeah, the Japan experience sounds really good. I've been up there several times, and the energy up in Japan is just so different. I'm not talking really culturally different. Wise. I'm talking about like the earth. When you go up there, the amount of ley lines coming together and these, go up to Kyoto and see how you feel. Everything is just so heavy up there. It's just such a different vibration frequency that's in those islands. I don't know if it's because it's so volcanic, but Hawaii has some of that really same kind of heavy earth energy, especially on the Big Island, regardless of the eruptions now. I mean, it always has.
Yeah, I was there in 1982, and I was in what was, thought of as the most traditional part of Japan. So it wasn't, it wasn't the friendliest place for me, but it was one of the most interesting times of my life because the culture is so different than you would expect. Now, this was 1982. Maybe it's really changed since then, but the people are very, very different, and the men were difficult. Again, 1982, and I was in a very traditional part of Japan, so it was beautiful, but it was difficult.
Yeah, that's true. And that really stays today. I speak some Chinese and I can read Chinese characters. And when we went up to Japan, they just don't care if they speak English or if you have to speak Japanese. It's really interesting because even though being able to read part of the signs, because, traditional characters are also used in Japan, I had the most difficult, frustrating time traveling up there. And this is just this year for Christmas and New Year's. We were up in Kyoto. And also traveling down to Osaka. Osaka is a pretty large city, but still it's the same thing. It's you either speak Japanese or you don't, and we don't care if you do. We'll try to help you, but very few. It's just when you get into these outer-lying cities outside Tokyo and thing, it's more difficult to find people. And then, we went up into Hokkaido Island. When you talk about traditional, we went up to Hakodate and we went up to Sapporo. But then on the outside, we went to Otaru and a few other smaller places, coastal. You talk about, we're going back to exactly what you're talking about. When you get out of these really far, coastal areas that are outside on a far island, even up in Hokkaido, very difficult traveling, even in the train stations to get tickets. It was a nightmare.
Yeah.
But I loved it. It was frustrating, but fun at the same time.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I would have never traded that experience. It was such an interesting experience. And, I just think that they're very easily embarrassed. And so to take on a language that they may not be able to speak well, and make mistakes in speaking it, I really think that's why they don't really, and it's not all of them, but, a lot of the people that I'd run into don't even attempt it. They don't really want to be embarrassed, You know what? It was really okay because it forced me to speak their language, and so I was hyper vigilant with my little book, and I had to communicate the way they wanted to communicate, and that was fine.
And speaking of agriculture and other things that can enhance our lives, I wanted to talk about CBD oil for just a second here, and I do thank Hemp Lucid for making this production possible. These days, CBD oil is becoming extremely popular for all of the good that it can do for your health. And doing a bit of research online, there's so much information coming out now detailing how effective CBD oil is for pain, anxiety, stress, and even some chronic illnesses. And moving forward in the whole grain debacle with the grand solar minimum cooling, hemp is going to be a major part of us transitioning to a new protein source in the seeds. But at the same time, the CBD industry is expanding. And as an example of this, Hemp Lucid, the most wholesome and most potent raw hemp extractions available. When you use Hemp Lucid products every day, you'll feel the benefits of mind, body, and spirit. You can see the full range of their products at hemplucid.com. You'll be amazed at the balance you feel. You'll find that link below and all the articles we're talking about in our discussion today in the description box below.
Yeah, it is a cultural experience. And if anybody's looking for still, last kind of edge of really super exotic travel, incredibly good food, incredible landscapes beyond it, the volcanic landscapes and out on lakes with volcanoes in the middle and all, it is picture postcard, and the bamboo forests are far beyond what you can even see. It is some of the most exotic traveling available left on the planet. India was great, but now it's so overcrowded there. I traveled in India in the early 90s, and it was amazing at that time. It was crowded, but today there's double the population that there was in the early 90s. Really crowded now. But Japan still offers you this, just such a special experience to go up there. And there's so many islands and so many places and so many ancient temples and cities. And, they have the old ancient temple route, and that's all based in Taoism with the Beidou Qixing, which is the Big Dipper cult that's up there. And you can find just so much history and so much culture. And it is truly one of the best places, in my opinion, to still travel on the planet. It's untouched, but it's touched. It's one of these zones in the planet. It is really, truly special up there.
It is. I agree. When I would have a couple of days off, I would go out into the small islands. And those islands, I'm telling you, you think you were walking through the 16th century. It was just crazy. You walk, thatched roofs and, there are little gardens out in front, these little winding roads. Just out of nowhere, there would be a samurai museum, it was really a trip. But yeah, you're right. It was worth it.
Yeah, and even my experiences going up there these last 3 years, each year I've been up there once in these last 3 years. And you're talking about your experiences in the 1980s. I'm saying I got the same experiences right now, and it's this modern day. So yeah, India's changed substantially. There's internet everywhere, and everybody's so clued in, and it's a very different, super different style in India, which used to be exotic. Even in Nepal and the Himalayan mountains, that's all super different now. The only places I could say, Myanmar, northern Myanmar, they're putting in all the new trekking trails on the Himalaya up there, because Myanmar borders the Himalaya on the very north up there, once you get north of Michitna. And that whole area is super exotic still, and then Japan. But, everything's becoming so homogenized across our planet that wherever you go, you're going to find the same, copy, paste across the planet. And these two places, at least for me, Myanmar, northern Myanmar, and then Japan are still just exotic and wild and so you won't expect what you're going to experience up there. I don't know how many guidebooks you read. You're just going to have a different experience that it just can't be quantified through a photo. You just have to experience it. It's still incredibly, I like to travel, and traveling is becoming a little homogenous and boring in some places, but these are two special spots still. I don't know what it is about that. The energy's up in these places either. It just, they haven't taken on, so it hasn't changed the homogeneousness of everything else, if that's even a word, homogeneousness.
That's okay. I understand you.
So tell us more about, the sound healing and frequencies for the body. And, you talked about you'd been working with the group with therapeutics and therapeutic sound and wellness. So I would like you to go, and that's one of the main things I really wanted to touch on today was, these sound frequencies, because the frequencies of our earth are changing, the frequencies of our sun are changing, the frequencies of our solar system are changing, but also at the same time with just these frequencies for our bodies. This is a major thing. Everybody's kind of a little bit out of balance today, and I'll include them myself, being working so much on the computer. So this is the one thing I'm most interested in is the sound frequency, healing vibrations, etc. Because I noticed you had the Tibetan bowls on the front of the site there, and these are things that have been used through antiquity. The bowls, the chanting, the vibration from the voice, as well as from the Tibetan singing bowls, etc.
Right. What all these things have in common is that they're not tuned to 440. That's number one, but they're rich in harmonics. I know I keep saying this, but it's really key. And so the bowls that I use, they're from Himalaya, and the man that sells them, it's HimalayanBowls.com. He's really something special, and he's been going to that part of the world since the late 60s, so he has quite a collection of bowls, and he has a lot of the antique bowls. So I have two of those bowls. One is a very large bowl, one's a medium-sized bowl, and one is from the 16th century and one is from the 17th century. They have 7 different kinds of metal. When they were fashioned by the monks, they were done so while they were in prayer and toning. So you have these beautifully infused metal bowls. I won't even use a new metal bowl. I'm not a fan of the crystal bowls. That's just me. I'm always about grounding people. It's about being grounded and being in your body and fully experiencing what's going on around you. So these metal bowls, when you set them on someone and then you play the bowl, you put it on their solar plexus, it absolutely shifts them. The new bowls have no resonance, none. When you hit one of these older bowls, it rings forever. The other thing that I do is I do like a Tibetan throat singing, and that is deeply harmonic. So I'll do a little bit for you right now, okay? And you'll just hear how resonant it is, even though we're on Skype. So let me do this. Can you hear all the overtones and the harmonics in that?
Yeah, you can. And it reminds me of listening to some of the monks when they would go off for hours doing the same thing. And when you're in that environment, your body starts to, even with just minutes, it just starts to equalize something. I don't know.
It really does. Yeah, I've done it in a room full of people. I've done a lot of core voice connection workshops. I've done it in a room full of people, and you can feel the room shift. I mean, sound is so powerful. And the other thing I use, I have a Pythagorean tone generator that it looks a little bit like a xylophone, but it's tuned. It has a Pythagorean tuning. And a gentleman I think he's on Vancouver Island, he makes them. And again, that's very rich in harmonics. So I use that. And I use some bar chimes that I get from India. which are also very rich in harmonics. So I use that for alignment. And really what's the most powerful of all instruments is the human voice. And that's why it's so important that we find our voices, we use our voices, we work on developing a resonant voice, because just by speaking in the right placement with a resonant voice, that can be very healing. And it's healing for people that are listening to you. So, those are really, I think, for me, that's what works, because I'm addicted to the harmonics. That's what I want to hear. And even when I was singing, I had a band called Seattle Women, and I had a band called Detroit Women. I've had a lot of bands, and I had Hart, I had all kinds of bands. But those were very successful groups. And what they were, and this is before I knew I was going to do any sound healing or anything, what they were is it was 6 women, all blues singers. They're much like the Mad Dogs and Englishmen thing with Joe Cocker, that were singing harmony. Each woman would sing a lead, and the other 5 women would sing backup. So it was real gospel-y, rock, blues. So even throughout my career, I was always searching for that deep harmonic sound. That's what I've seen shift people and things around me the quickest.
Yeah, and coming into this time when the world's in such a state of shift at the moment, it's all about trying not to live in fear and knowing that you have mechanisms to alleviate the fear within seconds, taking that fear away, because I think that's the thing that's so paralyzing. I think that's the reason that governments aren't coming clean with what's going on, because they're afraid that everybody will be afraid. But having these sound vibrations and these types of things allow you to come at it and understand that the fear is truly in your mind. And what you're feeling can be shifted in about a fraction of a second, 1/5 of 1/8 of a second, after you focus yourself and start bringing in exactly what you're talking about here, these resonant frequencies.
Right. Well, I talk about this all the time on my YouTube channel. I mean, I sign out with it all the time. I say, live in the moment. Now, live in the moment's a really overused phrase, but it's the truth. Live in the moment. Don't worry about what you have, what you've got to do, what's coming up. If you're going to die, you better get out of this town. Just live in the moment. If you stay there, then that's where all the clarity is. Things. Yeah, my mother used to say, my mother was very wise. She was a traditional astrologer. There was a lot she knew. And she used to say, she said, it's already happened. You just haven't gotten there yet. And so you just stay in the moment. And that's the clarity. The minute you become afraid, it really goes south. You're not going to get the right information. You're going to break that connection to that all-knowing, intuitive voice that knows everything. And the minute you're afraid, you break that connection. It serves no purpose. So you stay in the moment, and that's where the information is. And then there's the next moment, and there's the next moment. I don't get up every day and go, oh boy, I better prep. I just find myself doing things that may serve me in the future. I just do what's in front of me. That's all I can do. So, there's so much of this, overwhelming, I don't know what's going to happen. And, and this person lying and that person lying. Just forget about it and just get in the moment. Just open yourself up to what's available to you right now. We are in change. We are shifting. And there's just nothing we can do about it. We're going to shift. And it's all of us are. We're not going to leave, a few hundred people behind. Everybody's going to shift. So, put on your helmet, because it's going to be quite a ride. I'm really excited about it. I think this is an opportunity for us to be heroic. I think we're going to find huge solutions. I think we're going to plug into to remedies and solutions that will surprise all of us. So, we've been lazy for a long time, and now we get to really pay attention. Don't you think?
Let's take a minute to talk about one of the sponsors of Mini Ice Age Conversations podcast, Hemp Lucid. I actually wanted to talk about hemp a little bit myself because I believe that the transition of agriculture in the grand solar minimum is going to involve hemp for different protein sources and also fibers, as some grain crops go offline due to cold encroaching in the grow zones. And this is why I feel confident recommending Hemp Lucid over other CBD brands. And hemp is truly an amazing plant. We've been using this since antiquity. It's a versatile plant in nature. It has fiber, it has protein, has everything we need as a human species. Now, in 2014, there was a congressional farm bill where industrial hemp was reintroduced as an agricultural commodity in the United States. Through the millennia, the benefits of the hemp plant were well known. Hemp agriculture dates back at least 10,000 years. There's thousands and thousands of known applications for hemp. I mean, really, look around you. Almost everything that you see right now could be made from hemp. Biodegradable, renewable, and we can use every part of the plant. It's a superfood, if you will. I talk about Moringa oleifera, spirulina algae. Well, here's another superfood, hemp. It promotes natural well-being anyway if you just eat the protein-rich seeds as you would with, say, sorghum or millet or amaranth. It's right in that same category of healthy, nutritious plants. And when you're feeling better, your energy levels are higher. That is a fact. I don't care what grain you're eating. If you're eating right, you're sleeping better, more energy. And the health benefits of all these other grains I mentioned, including hemp, are well tested in clinical studies. There are literally millions of published papers on the science of how these grains, including hemp, work in your body. Now, one particular category of hemp products called CBD oil, it's been in the news a lot recently. CBD is a biochemical compound found abundantly in the hemp plant, not just the seeds, not just the leaves, the entire plant. The hemp CBD oil has a perfect lock and key relationship with the cell receptors, not only in your brain, but widespread throughout your body, providing you a wider spectrum of subtle but noticeable improvements for your mind, body, and spirit. And Hemp Lucid is becoming an innovative force in this blossoming industry, providing pure, delicious, effective Colorado hemp CBD oil, all natural, non-psychoactive extract of the entire plant, not just the isolated CBD molecule. And it doesn't have any of the euphoric properties normally associated with the cannabis plant. Now, talking about extraction methods, with Hemp Lucid, they don't use any solvents or additives, nothing artificial. And while you are looking for an extract, you need to look for clean, pure, and also that the chemical structure of the ingredients remain fully intact. Hemp-derived CBD oil is legal in the United States. It has multiple valuable uses in everyday life. Hemp Lucid strives to continue the work of nature in the human body using only the purest ingredients, and they do mean it when they say experience life again. Give their oils a try and at least learn more about the subject of CBD oil at hemplucid.com and use the discount code ADAPT at checkout to save 20% on your total order.
Yeah, I do. And that's the reason I do my channel. You know, a lot of people ask me, why did you ever start doing your channel? And I traded coffee out of Myanmar, and that's the reason I can talk about Myanmar in the north up there, especially when you get up to Chin State and then you get further over up toward Michitna. Because we went up into the Shan State and we're trading coffee. But, you know, when the coffee farmers had told us they were experiencing cold weather losses on the new plantings since, like 2012. We went there 2013, and they had even talked about, 2011 being exceptionally cold. But then they were starting to lose new plantings in the field due to cold, and I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. I've been taught global warming. But then I thought about it too, and it was, all about the fear. Once I realized what was going on following John Casey's work, and after talking with him and quite a few others, I knew these changes were coming too, and I tried to do the channel to allow people to understand the information, because then we can come at the solutions. Because just to be afraid of these changes, you have to understand the changes, why they're occurring, that they're cyclic, that they've been survived through the past, and to come at it to allow others who haven't gotten the knowledge, that are going to be incredibly afraid during this time. Things are functioning pretty well at the moment in comparison to what I personally see in a couple years coming out with the forecast, just based on crop yields moving forward. But there are going to be a lot of terrified and very afraid people when they shouldn't really be. And if there's somebody there that understands the changes, why they're occurring, what can be done to, think of the solutions. We're going to think of new tech that we haven't even thought of yet as a solution. We're going to be pushed into this, just solution-based society where everything we do will be a new solution. We'll really have to tap back into that infinite consciousness to try to find these solutions that are there, that were always there. They're going to come back and help us at this time, but to come at it with this non-fear-based type of thinking, because that is, I continuously talk about that. If you're afraid, you're going to get nothing done. If you're afraid, you're going to make the wrong choices based out of fear. And with all these changes coming up and this grand solar minimums here, that's great. Just accept it. But I do the information channel so people can not be fearful, that they can explain it to others so they don't have to be fearful. Because this whole fear-based society that we've been programmed to live in, every time you turn on the news, it's there to put you in fear. Everything that's happening around the world, the way the news, the newspapers, magazines phrase it, it's to put you in fear. And if you can overcome this, and I think that's the greatest feat on our planet right now, is to overcome the fear-based structure and the matrix that exists around us. Then when you come at it in this different understanding, at this point, that's where the true freedom is. And that's truly how you can help other people, is by taking that fear away, so then they can think more, into that intuitive side of, all right, I understand why. Now let's look for the solutions. And that's really the reason I do my channel, is because I'm on this planet with everybody else going through these changes. And if somebody else is more prepared and they understand it, we can all come up with better collective solutions than one guy or one girl sitting over here talking about it.
Yeah, that's right. It's funny because logically, I think, well, this is a ridiculous place to be. I'm, 10 miles north of Detroit. If there are food shortages, I could just see that isn't going to go so well, right? So I know that logically. In my heart, I cannot find, or my intuitive self, nothing is telling me to leave right now. I'm just saying right now. Now, maybe next week it'll be a different story. I've looked for land. I've gone on several trips and says, okay, well, maybe I'll buy a house here. But nothing ever really worked out. The minute I get back here, everything flows really easily. So again, my life experience has taught me that when it's time for me to do something or to change or to move, I will do it. But I'm not going to worry about it beforehand. Again, in my logical mind, I go, oh, this isn't such a great place to be. But then nothing's really presented itself, for me to make that change. I'm going out to around the Sedona area. I'm taking a trip at the end of the month. We'll see what happens. But I'm not being called to leave yet. And maybe my place is to be here, and maybe my place is to, work with the community that I'm a part of. I don't know yet. I'm living in the moment, so who knows?
I do thank Hemp Lucid for making this production possible. The most wholesome and most potent raw hemp extractions available. You can see the full range of their products at hemplucid.com. You'll be amazed at the balance you feel.